This is an emotional and tragic story of Chiboy, a calm and respectful student of the University of Calabar, who secretly served as the #1 of the Buccaneers confraternity. Despite his quiet lifestyle and good reputation, his secret identity was exposed, attracting the attention and rivalry of the Black Axe confraternity. When rumors spread, jealousy and power struggles led to his downfall. Chiboy was taken off while returning from lectures, marking a painful end to his young life. His downfall serves as a strong warning that cultism offers nothing but pain, betrayal, and sadness. This story is for educational purposes only, created to raise awareness about the dangers of cultism and its devastating effects on youth and campus life. In the University of Calabar, there was a student known by everyone simply as Chiboy. He was recognized across the campus for his calmness, respectful attitude, and decent behavior. Many saw him as one of the most humble and responsible young men around. His classmates described him as the type of student who avoided trouble, kept his pace clean, and minded his studies. In his lodge, he was the one who greeted everyone politely, helped fix small issues, and never got involved in gossip or unnecessary arguments. Nothing about him suggested that he was involved in anything beyond school life. However, beneath that calm appearance, Chiboy was living a double identity that few people could ever imagine. He was not just a member of a campus confraternity. He was the #1. The overall head of the Buccaneers confraternity in the University of Calabar. In the language of the cult world, #1 meant the leader, the man at the top of the hierarchy. The position came with respect, fear, and enormous risk. As a researcher studying the culture of confraternities in Nigerian universities for over 10 years, Chiboy's case stands out as a symbol of contradiction. It shows how deeply cultism has blended into student life, sometimes hidden behind faces that look innocent and disciplined. Chiboy's personality made it almost impossible for anyone to suspect him. He didn't show off, he didn't dress loud, and he didn't behave like the stereotypical cult member that many people imagine. The Buccaneers, also known by their historical name Alara, are one of the oldest confraternities in Nigerian tertiary institutions. They are structured, organized, and disciplined compared to many other groups. They have a clear chain of command, and their activities are often guided by secrecy and quietness. On most campuses, they are not known to be loud or excessively violent unless provoked. They operate under a strong code of loyalty and intelligence. This separates them from other confraternities like the Vikings and Black Axe, which are more dominant, more visible, and often involved in open clashes. At the University of Calabar, during Chiboy's leadership, the Buccaneers maintained a low profile. They did not compete for public attention or power displays. They did not openly recruit or make noise. They focused on staying unseen while keeping their network strong. Many of them were known to be respectful students who blended into normal school life. This made the group difficult to identify and hard for campus security to track. Under Chiboy's guidance, the Buccaneers avoided unnecessary conflicts with rival confraternities, especially the Black Axe. People who interacted with Chiboy had no clue about his hidden life. His lecturers regarded him as focused and serious with his studies. His neighbors saw him as gentle and calm. Even students from other departments described him as an example of a well-trained young man. He was the type who would rather walk away from trouble than engage in any form of confrontation. That is why his later downfall came as a shock to many who knew him. It was hard for them to understand how such a quiet and respectful young man could be involved in the world of cultism. But to those who understand the internal structure of campus confraternities, his calmness was part of what made him a successful leader. The #1 of the Buccaneers was expected to be a strategist, someone who could think deeply and act with caution. Violence was not his first option.
He believed in control through order, not chaos. Unfortunately, that same calmness and discipline later made him an easy target for those who saw his peace as weakness. In every cult group, power creates enemies. And for someone like Chiboy, respected, quiet, and powerful, such enemies were never far away.
Being the number one of the Buccaneers confraternity at the University of Calabar was not an easy position for Chiboy. It was a role filled with responsibility, secrecy, and constant caution. Even though he appeared calm, he lived every day with the awareness that one mistake could expose him. The leadership seat he occupied demanded discipline and silence. It was not about showing off or seeking attention, it was about keeping the family safe. The Buccaneers had a unique way of running their affairs. They were not interested in open violence or noisy dominance. Their focus was loyalty and brotherhood. Under Chiboy's leadership, they kept to themselves and avoided unnecessary clashes. He believed that violence only attracted police attention and destroyed the peace that students needed to survive on campus. His leadership style made many members respect him even more. They saw him as a true sailor who could guide the ship through calm and troubled waters. Despite his good nature, Chiboy always knew that danger existed. In the world of confraternities, respect and peace were fragile. The Black Axe confraternity had numbers, strength, and influence across several campuses. They controlled certain areas and often saw smaller groups as a threat. Chiboy knew that as long as the Buccaneers continued to exist quietly, they would eventually be noticed. The silence of the Buccaneers was their shield, but it could also raise curiosity among rivals who wanted to know who was leading them. Rumors began to spread. Someone, somewhere, started whispering that the calm and respectful Chiboy was not just a student, but the number one of the Buccaneers. At first, most people found it hard to believe. How could someone so peaceful be involved in something like that? But in cult matters, rumors move faster than the truth. Each whisper reached more ears, and slowly curiosity turned to confirmation. The wrong people began to take interest. Chiboy sensed it. He could feel eyes watching him when he walked to class or returned to his lodge. He noticed unfamiliar faces around the faculty, but there was little he could do. Once your identity leaks in the world of campus cultism, safety becomes uncertain. And for Chiboy, that slow exposure was the beginning of his end. The University of Calabar was a lively campus during the day, but when darkness fell, it became a different world, one filled with quiet tension and hidden movements. It was in this environment that rumors about Chiboy began to take a dangerous shape. The whispers that had started as simple talk among students soon reached the ears of the Black Axe confraternity. For the Black Axe, control was everything. They prided themselves on being the most feared and recognized group across many universities in Nigeria. Their dominance was not just about numbers, it was about influence, loyalty, and fear. So when they heard that someone from another confraternity, especially the Buccaneers, was rising in power and respect, they paid attention. At first, some members of the Black Axe didn't take the rumor seriously. They knew Chiboy as a quiet and humble student who minded his business. To many, he didn't fit the picture of a confraternity leader. But there were a few who had always disliked him. They saw his calmness as pride and his respect as a disguise. These were the ones who fueled the rumor, pushing it until it reached the ears of the higher ranks. Once the matter got to the top of the Black Axe chain, suspicion turned to hostility. They began to see Chiboy as a hidden threat, someone who could challenge their control if allowed to continue leading the Buccaneers. His quiet leadership and growing respect among students made him dangerous in their eyes. Still, Chiboy chose to remain calm. He didn't believe that rumors could lead to real trouble. He trusted that his peaceful leadership and good relationship with many would protect him. But the world he was in didn't work that way. Once your name becomes a topic among rivals, peace disappears. Unknown to Chiboy,
Plans were already being discussed in the shadows. His name had moved beyond mere whispers. It had become a target.
As days passed, tension around the University of Calabar thickened like the evening fog that covered the school's narrow streets. Chiboy went about his daily life, attending lectures, greeting familiar faces, and minding his business. But beneath the calm surface, danger was building. The Black Axe members, known for their strategy and patience, had begun watching his every move. The Black Axe had already decided that Chiboy was a problem. To them, the fact that a Buccaneer member held such quiet influence within the university was a threat to their dominance. They believed that if Chiboy was left unchecked, he might recruit more members or inspire students to look up to the Buccaneers instead. For the Black Axe, that was unacceptable. They needed to send a message, a warning that no other confraternity could rise above them. Chiboy's peaceful personality made him easy to underestimate. He was not one to show off power or intimidate others. He focused on his academics and kept a respectful distance from conflicts. That very calmness, however, made some people think he was weak, unaware that it was what kept him alive for so long. In the confraternity circle, rivalry wasn't about open fights alone. It was also about power balance and silent warnings. When a rival group felt another was getting stronger, they acted before that strength could become a problem. And now, the Black Axe had decided to act. The streets had already spoken. Chiboy's name was marked. By the time the rumor about Chiboy being the number one of the Buccaneers reached every corner of the University of Calabar, the tension was already beyond control. The campus no longer felt safe for him, even though he still tried to act like everything was normal. He stopped hanging around the school cafe and avoided gatherings in the evenings. Even when his lodge mates played music or had group discussions, Chiboy preferred to stay inside pretending to read. He wasn't scared of confrontation, but he understood the way things worked. Once a confraternity marked you, time was no longer on your side. The Black Axe had already set their plan in motion. Their members from within and outside the campus had gathered enough information about Chiboy, where he lived, the classes he attended, and the route he usually took home. They didn't move in a hurry. Instead, they waited for the perfect moment, the kind of night when everything looked normal. Unfortunately, the quiet days that followed were not peace, they were preparation. The Black Axe members were still around, studying his every step, waiting patiently. And when the time was right, they would strike, not for revenge, but for dominance, to prove that no one, not even a calm Buccaneer like Chiboy, could challenge their authority on campus. As the week dragged on, calmness returned to the University of Calabar. But it was a deceptive calm, the kind that comes before a storm. Around that time, whispers about his position as the number one Buccaneer began to fade from public talk. But they didn't fade in the ears of those who mattered, the Black Axe hierarchy. They had taken the rumor personally. The idea that the Buccaneers had a strong presence on campus was unacceptable to them. To them, allowing Chiboy to continue leading meant allowing the Buccaneers to rise in confidence, and that would upset the fragile balance of power in Calabar. Plans were made in secret places. Some members of the Black Axe who had once shared friendly greetings with Chiboy were among those plotting against him. They pretended not to know anything. They smiled, shook hands, and acted as if everything was fine. The betrayal was deep, but Chiboy didn't see it coming. One evening, he received a call from a classmate asking for help with an assignment. The caller told him to meet behind one of the lecture halls, a quiet area that was usually deserted at night. Chiboy didn't suspect anything. He was known for being helpful and never turned down a student in need. Around 7 p.m., he packed his bag and started walking toward the location, unaware that he was walking into a trap carefully set for him. As he passed through the dimly lit path, a few familiar faces appeared from the shadows. Before he could speak, more figures emerged,
all wearing dark clothes and moving with coordinated silence. He realized too late that it wasn't a casual encounter. The moment he turned to run, they surrounded him. The Black Axe squad had executed their plan flawlessly. They didn't make noise, they didn't argue, they came for one reason. The quiet night of the University of Calabar was about to change forever, as Chiboy's fate hung in the balance.
That evening at the University of Calabar was unusually silent. Most students had already gone back to their hostels after lectures, and only a few street vendors were still around. The air was thick with tension, a kind that most people couldn't explain. In the dark corner behind the lecture hall, Chiboy's fate was sealed. The men who approached him were not strangers. He had seen some of them before around campus, greeting and smiling as if they were friends. But that night, there were no greetings, no smiles, only a look of intent. The Black Axe squad had waited long enough. They believed that removing Chiboy would send a clear message across the campus and even beyond. No one shouted and no noise came from the scene. Everything happened quietly and swiftly. Within minutes, the campus that had always known Chiboy as the respectful, cool-headed student lost one of its brightest lights. He was taken down by those who once laughed with him. There was no confrontation, no argument, no time for him to explain or plead. Many could not believe it. How could someone so peaceful and polite be a target of such cruelty? For those who knew the underworld of confraternities, the answer was simple. In their world, positions meant power, and power came with enemies. Chiboy's position as the #1 Buccaneer painted a target on his back, and once his identity leaked, there was no escaping it. For the Buccaneers, it was a painful loss. Their members went into hiding, not knowing who would be next. The Black Axe members, on the other hand, carried on as though nothing happened. On campus, life moved on, but deep within, everyone knew that something precious had been lost. A calm young man whose future ended because of the dark path of cultism. The days that followed Chiboy's downfall at the University of Calabar were filled with confusion, fear, and unanswered questions. The once lively campus turned cold. Lecturers who had known Chiboy as a bright and humble student were shocked. Some even struggled to believe the rumors that he was a confraternity leader. To them, he had always been disciplined, respectful, and dedicated to his studies. His quiet personality had never hinted at the life he lived in secret. But in the world of cultism, appearances often hid darker realities. The Buccaneers' confraternity went underground. Their members moved cautiously, avoiding gatherings or wearing anything that could draw attention. They were grieving, but they knew that reacting openly would only bring more trouble. Retaliation could spark more conflict on campus, and everyone knew that once violence started, innocent students would suffer the most, so they stayed quiet, mourning in silence. Meanwhile, the Black Axe members who were behind the attack disappeared into the shadows. Some left campus for a while others blended back into the student population, acting as though they knew nothing. The school authorities made small attempts to investigate, but without evidence or witnesses, the case was dropped like many before it. Outside the campus, in Calabar City, the story spread quickly. Some people said Chiboy was betrayed by someone close to him. Others believed the rivalry between confraternities had simply reached a breaking point. But whatever the version, everyone agreed that his downfall was a tragedy, another reminder of how dangerous and empty cult life could be. For ordinary students, fear became the new normal. They avoided late-night movements, kept to small groups, and stayed away from any kind of confraternity talk. The message was clear. No one was untouchable, and no one was safe once cultism was involved. Chiboy's name slowly faded from the headlines, but his story left a scar on the University of Calabar. It became one of those whispered warnings passed down to new students. Stay away from cultism. It never ends well.
And indeed, for Chiboy, the path of loyalty and secrecy had only led to silence and loss. The University of Calabar struggled to recover from the tension that Chiboy's downfall created. Even though life seemed to move on, something had changed in the hearts of students. The incident had opened everyone's eyes to the reality of cultism, the hidden battles, betrayals, and endless circle of revenge that lived beneath the calm surface of university life. Some students who had secretly admired confraternities began to rethink their choices. The glamour and influence they once saw in cult groups started to look like an illusion. Chiboy's story became a quiet warning that even the most respected, intelligent, and peaceful individuals could fall victim once they got involved. For the Buccaneers, Chiboy's downfall was more than a loss of a leader. It was a symbol of vulnerability. They had always been known as quiet and disciplined, but this attack showed that silence didn't mean safety. The confraternity structure weakened temporarily, as many members either fled campus or went underground. The Black Axe had once again shown its dominance, using fear as its weapon. And though no justice came, his story became a moral lesson that cultism is a trap disguised as brotherhood, and once inside, the exit often comes too late. Chiboy's name slowly turned into a warning, a reminder that the streets never forget and the past always finds a way back.